New videos every day.
Before we get started, I want to take a survey. I want you to push pause on the video and write down, leave a comment about what you ate for your last meal or snack. So I really want to know. I definitely want to know this information. So go ahead and push pause right now and leave a message. And that way I can make a video about what you left your comments about. Today we are going to talk about intuitive eating. Now you may be thinking, what in the world is that? Well, intuitive eating has everything to do with how full you are, how hungry you are, everything in between, and paying attention to how you feel before, during, and after you eat. So we're going to talk about basically just paying attention when you're eating. Now there's a lot of reasons why people will eat. You know, the most obvious is people are hungry, so they're going to eat when they're hungry. But there's a lot of psychological issues behind when someone chooses to eat. Number one, a lot of people eat when they're stressed. Number two, a lot of people eat when they're bored. If you don't have anything to do and there's food sitting around, it's real easy to go seek that out as something to do during the time you don't have anything else to do. People eat when they're worried, that goes along with stress. People eat when they feel lonely to kind of comfort themselves. So all these are reasons why someone would go eat something, and it doesn't have anything to do with the physical hunger that you may feel. So just recognizing the fact that you may feel hungry, but it's more of a psychological thing, may keep you from actually going and actually eating when you don't actually need those calories. So I want to talk to you about what's called the hunger scale. And it starts at 0 and it ends at 10. And 0 would be you are starving, you're famished, you need to eat something right now. All the way up to 10 would be you're stuffed, you ate too much, you can't cram anything else in. And so 5 would be kind of the happy medium where you're satisfied, you're not too full, you don't feel that edge of hunger. So I want to talk to you about this scale because a lot of people don't pay attention to their feelings of fullness as they eat through a meal. So for instance, if you start around a 2, meaning that you are pretty hungry, but if there was no food around, you could go a little bit longer and be all right. So you started at 2 and then you get a meal and you start eating through it. A lot of people don't pay attention when they reach that feeling when the hunger is gone, because people keep eating until they get that feeling of fullness, and a lot of times at that point they've eaten too much, and so then they feel stuffed and bloated or whatever the symptoms are because they've eaten too much. So the key in this scale is to really try it when you eat. Aim for a 6 or a 7 where you're satisfied, you're content, you're calm, you don't have any feelings of hunger, but you're not stuffed. Because when we're stuffed, we've gotten too many calories, we've eaten too much, and that puts a really hardship on our digestive system, and it makes it so much harder to digest and absorb, and we end up storing what we've eaten rather than using it for energy in the future. So let's take a little bit of time right now for you to put yourself on that scale. So right now, just think about it. Are you starving? Have you not eaten all day? Are you just a little bit of hunger pangs? Maybe you're close to a 4. Are you currently snacking right now and you're at a 7? You're content, but you're kind of still eating. Or do you feel stuffed right now? Are you a 9 or a 10? So think about it. And kind of put yourself on that scale right now, because doing that and practicing this technique of thinking about how full and how hungry you feel while you're eating or after you've eaten will help you to just pay attention, so that the more and more you do this, the more and more opportunity you have to stop yourself before you overeat. So here are some tips on how to get full and stay full longer without having to consume excessive calories or excessive portion sizes. So number 1 is consume the right kinds of food. So the composition of food is really important. If you're eating foods that are high in fiber, that promotes that feeling of fullness. If you're eating foods that have lots of nutrients, that also promotes a feeling of fullness. Anything with healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, so that would be your whole grains, beans, things like that. All those healthy foods are going to promote that feeling of fullness, and you don't have to eat a whole lot to be full. Number 2, you really got to take your time when you're eating. In our society today, everybody just wolfs down their food and on the run, you're eating at work, whatever the case may be, and people are just, eating their food in 10 minutes or, 5 minutes, and it actually takes about 20 minutes for you to begin feeling that feeling of fullness. So if you've eaten a meal in 5 or 10 minutes, on the run or whatever you're doing, it's going to be about 10 more minutes before you feel, oh gosh, I ate too much. So if you take your time a little bit when you're eating, you'll begin to feel the feeling of fullness so that you don't overeat just because you haven't felt anything yet. It takes a while for your body to realize you've got food in your stomach in order for all the chemical signals to kind of go off and all the hormones to go off in your body to say that you don't need to eat anymore. So take your time when you're eating. Slow down just a little bit. Number 3 is pay attention to your portion sizes because, in our day and age, every portion size is just enormous. And unfortunately, what we're served a lot of times is what we're going to eat, regardless of how big it is, how enormous it is. 60% of people are going to eat what they're served. So if you can cue into the fact that a portion size is too large, before you even start eating, you may help yourself kind of set limits for yourself. If you get a big plate of food and okay, well, half of that is really a normal portion, you're already beginning that intuitive eating before you even pick up your fork. And number 4 is just listen to your body. So you want to just cue in and take your time and really think about everything that you're feeling when you're eating. And I used to work for a lady, and she was really good about doing this. So we'd be at a restaurant, and she would be eating so much slower than me, and I would ask her, God, your salad's barely gone, and she would always say that I'm just paying attention. And that's what she was doing. She was taking enough time that when she was taking bites, she was kind of assessing how she felt so that she knew at the moment that she felt full but not stuffed, she was able to stop. So that's really what we're talking about today, is just taking enough time to think about how you're feeling when you're eating, after you're eating, so that you begin to learn the cues that your body is telling you, because hunger is a natural response, and unfortunately we've manipulated a lot with what we're eating and all the chemicals and stuff that are in their food supply. But just paying attention to that hunger will help us from overeating. And number 5, this is actually very important. Don't skip meals, because when your blood sugar gets too low and you get too low on that hunger scale, maybe a 0 or a 1, you are really tempted to binge because you are so hungry, you're irritable, and you just want food at that very moment. So if you let yourself get too low on that scale, it's really easy to overeat just because that feeling of hunger is so intense. So pay attention, and then when you feel that first feelings of hunger, don't wait 4 hours before you actually do eat something. So I just wanted to make this video because I think this is a really important aspect of eating that a lot of people don't think about. It's not on our minds to pay attention to how full we feel through a meal as we're eating. But I think if we just kind of stop and pay attention, that'll definitely help us from, keep us from overeating. So next time you're at a restaurant or eating a meal, do the exercises that we talked about today. Slow down, think about how you're feeling, and then stop before you hit that stuffed feeling. And that'll help regulate how many calories you're getting throughout the day.